Welcome all of you. Today, the chapter we are discussing is the living world. What is living world? The world of living things. Remember that this world is made up of both living and non-living. And biology is the study of living things. It is the science of living things and living processes. So we are concerned about living things. Okay. And what are the living things? Living things are simply having life on them. All such organisms which are having life on them will be called as living things. Then you may ask, what is life? Life can be answered in two different ways. One, in a philosophical way. If you go on examining what is life on a philosophical way, we reach the answer, we get the answer. What is the purpose and aim of living? That is not what we need. Because we are all biologists, we are all scientists. So we want a scientific answer, a technical answer. That is the second way of answering what living is. Living organisms are having some special properties that makes them different from non-living things. These properties are unique for living things. Such things which are having life in them. That is the technical answer. That is the biological answer, a scientific answer. Okay, so we are not attempting the answer what life is on a philosophical way. Instead, we will be answering on a technical way. When you go on answering on a technical way, we get an answer. What is the difference between living and non-living? Then you may say, living things are having a number of properties like growth, metabolism, reproduction, etc. So let us examine one by one. We generally say that living things are all having an ability to grow. But what is growth? Growth is having two interesting features. It is having twin characteristics. What are they? One, increase in mass. They grow in mass. Two, increase in number of individuals. These are the two properties of the twin characteristics of growth. We can say that we are having growth shown by all living things. Okay, we simply say that living things are all growing, but examine how they are all growing. They are all growing by cell division. Their growth is from inside. Okay, but growth is having two different aspects. In unicellular organisms, growth means increase in number. So, for example, when we say that a bacterial culture has grown, it means that the bacterial number has increased. That's all. Increase in number for unicellular. Whereas in multicellular organisms, growth is increase in size. Increase in number is reproduction. How they are all increasing? Unicellular organisms are increasing in number by growth, and that is reproduction. Whereas in multicellular organisms, increase in mass is occurring, that is not reproduction. So, growth is reproduction in unicellular organisms, whereas in multicellular organisms, growth is increase in mass only. If you take that increase in mass is growth, then we have to say that non-living things are also growing because mountains are growing, their mass is increasing, boulders, rocks are all growing, sand mounds are growing because their size is increasing, their mass is increasing. But in them, growth is from outside. It is from outside. Such a growth on the outside is called accretion. We call it as accretion. So, in non-living things, if growth is occurring, it is different from living things. That we agree. But we have to agree that both living and non-living things are growing because in non-living things also, mass is increasing. Growth is not same in plants and animals. For example, plants will grow continuously throughout their life. But animals will grow only to a certain stage. Thereafter, growth is limited to certain tissues, certain cells only. So, growth is not occurring in the same way in all living things. In unicellular organisms, growth is reproduction. That increase in number. Whereas in multicellular, growth is increase in mass. It is not reproduction. In plants, growth occur continuously. Whereas in non-living, in animals, growth is only to a certain stage. Non-living things are also growing. If you have to take that increase in mass is a criterion of growth. So, as non-living things are also growing, we cannot take growth as a criteria that distinguishes a living from non-living. Understand why we are not taking that as a criteria, an all-inclusive defining feature? Because some non-living things are also growing. Of course, there is difference in the nature of growth. In animals and plants, growth is from inside. It is by cell division. Whereas in non-living things, if growth is occurring, that is by accumulation of materials on the surface called accretion. That is the difference. So, anyhow, mass is increasing and increase in mass is growth. And so, we have to agree that non-living things are also growing. And so, growth is not an all-inclusive defining feature, meaning a character that is present in all living things without exception. That's the meaning of the term all-inclusive defining feature. Got it? Now, similarly, we have to say that only living things are growing. A dead organism does not grow. That's an important point. Only living things will grow. Once they become dead, they cannot grow. Second character is reproduction. We say that only living things are having the ability to reproduce. But what is reproduction? Living things are reproducing by so many mechanisms like vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction. So we are having large number of different types of reproduction in different types of living things. And we have just discussed that reproduction is synonymous with growth. Both are having the same meaning in unicellular organisms because their growth occurs by reproduction. That is by division. That division is reproduction. Because their body is having only one cell. When that cell is dividing, that is reproduction. So, reproduction is growth, or reproduction and growth are synonymous in unicellular organisms. That is why it is stated that very often we are not so sure of the usage of two terms like growth and reproduction in unicellular organisms. But definitely, multicellular organisms are showing reproduction which is entirely different from that of growth. In multicellular organisms, growth results in increase in mass, whereas reproduction results in increase in number. They are different. They are not synonymous. They are not same. They are two independent, different things. That is why we say that mutually exclusive. In unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are mutually inclusive. Whereas in multicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are not the same. They are mutually exclusive, different, separate. Still, there is one more point. Are all living things capable of reproduction? No. Take the case of some living things like we are having honeybee workers. They never reproduce. There are females, sterile females. Only queen will reproduce. Queen is the only fertile female. Drones, they are all males. They also reproduce. Whereas workers who are all diploid and female will never reproduce. They are all sterile. Also, we are having a number of childless couple among us. They never have children. So, can we say that simply because they are having no children, they are non-living? No, they are all living. Still, they don't reproduce. Similarly, we are having the hybrids. We are having the two organisms like hinny and mule. Mule is a cross between, a hybrid between. Mule is a hybrid between male donkey and female horse. So their mother is horse, father is donkey. For mules, the opposite is correct for hinny. In hinny, father is horse. Okay, mother is donkey. Both hinny and mules are sterile. They never reproduce. So, we are having a number of examples among living things who are not having the ability to reproduce. Then how can you say that reproduction is an ability that distinguishes a living from a non-living? Not all living things are capable of reproduction. Simply because of that, we cannot say that reproduction is an all-inclusive defining feature. If we are to say that it is a all-inclusive defining feature, it should be shown by all members of living thing. All living things should be reproducing, but it is not occurring. So, because of that, we are not taking reproduction also as a all-inclusive defining feature. Can you understand? Follow me? Then another one is metabolism. What is metabolism? Some total of reactions that are all going on within our body that sustains our life. It is present in protozoans, it is present in mammals, this simply organized organism to most complicated organisms. It is present in plants, it is present in animals. So metabolism is the life-sustaining biochemical activities occurring in the body of a living thing. Only in the body of a living thing you will be having metabolism going on. That part we agree. But understand that metabolism can be conducted in a cell-free system in a laboratory. That is called in vitro conditions. Some of the metabolic reactions can be conducted also in the laboratory in a cell-free system in a glass vessel. We are performing many reactions in our laboratory in test tubes. So, is that metabolism occurring only within the living body, only within the cells? No. Metabolism can be conducted in laboratory systems. Then we say that metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms, without exception in all living organisms, whether it's a bacterium, whether it's a protozoan, whether it's a plant, whether it's an animal, you'll be having metabolism occurring. But understand that metabolism can also be conducted outside the cells. So such isolated metabolic reactions in vitro means in laboratory conditions. They are not living things. Such metabolic reactions are not living things, but surely living reactions. So we have to say that metabolism is a character that is present within the body of living things, but we also have to accept that metabolism can also be conducted in a cell-free system. When it is occurring in a cell-free system, we cannot say that metabolism is also an all-inclusive defining feature occurring only in the body of living thing, because inside the test tube it is going on. We are performing that reaction in the laboratory condition also. So metabolism is a defining feature of living thing, but not an all-inclusive defining feature of living things. Then, what are the characteristics of a living thing? There are only two important features. One, the first one is they will be all having a cellular nature. Only a living thing will be having cellular organization, meaning their body is made up of cells. Only in the body of a living thing you will be having cells and the cell products. Second one, all living things are capable of understanding what is happening in the surroundings and to make adjustments according to their surroundings. Not only they are all understanding what is happening, but also making adjustments in their body. They are all responding to such changes. Okay, so we are having that property, which is the most complicated, technically speaking, most complicated ability of a living thing. That is, ability to sense their surrounding or environment and to respond to such environmental changes. This is called simply consciousness. All living things are conscious of, they are aware of what is happening in their surrounding and they adjust their body conditions according to the changes in the surrounding. Is that clear? So, we are having only these two features. What are the two features? One, we are having number one, cellular organization. Okay. Two, consciousness. These are the two all-inclusive defining features. Okay. And along with that, you have to understand that there is a unique property for human beings, not for all, only for human beings. He is also conscious of himself. That is called self-consciousness. Human being is the only organism who is having self-consciousness. So, consciousness also become a defining property of living things. See, We cannot define living things by a simple sentence actually. Why? Because living things are belonging to so many different varieties, from very simple to very complex. Their organizational complexity, their abilities are so different from each other that it is not possible to define them in a single sentence. Okay. What is a living thing cannot be discussed very simply. Okay. Why the organisms are not defined so simply? Because organisms are belong to different degree of complexity. Some are made up of a single cell, some are made up of a number of cells which are organized to form tissues, some are having organs and organ systems in their body, and so we are having basically cells in them, and cells are organized to form tissues. Tissues are organized to form organs. Organs are organized to form organ systems. Like we are having respiratory system, digestive system, like that, which is made up of a number of organs. Understand that cell itself is also organized from a large number of organelles. A cell is made up of nucleus, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, mitochondria. So these are all the different organelles of a cell. And what they are all made of? They are all made up of macromolecules. We are having macromolecules. These macromolecules like proteins, carbohydrate, go into the composition of organelles, but are they having the same property? A cell is having some properties, but a tissue is having some other different properties. Tissue is made up of cells, but tissue is having some new properties which are not present in cells. How that tissue got that new properties? Tissues got that new property by their organization. By organizing to a higher level, they are all evolving new characters. New characters are always produced because of that organizational complexity. Similarly, a tissue is having a property, but an organ made up of that tissue will be having a number of new characters which are not shown by the tissues. Some organisms are having only cell, some are having tissues, some are having organs. So these organs fall under different grades of complexity. They will show different properties. So how can we define a living thing by a simple sentence? Not difficult, because depending upon their organizational complexity, properties are all different. If the property that is present in a mammal is not present in a sponge, it is not present in a protozoan. So they are all showing different properties. So only thing we can say that living things are self-replicating, evolving. See, they are going on evolving from simple to complex. They are all self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating interactive system. They are capable of controlling themselves, self-regulating, capable of responding to external stimuli, that is with consciousness. That is the simplest definition we can give for a living thing. As I have told you in the beginning, biology is the story of evolution of living organisms, not only of living things, but also living activities, but also how these living organisms evolved. So All organisms are not belong to the same complexity. They have evolved. So we have to study that history of their evolution. That's why we say that it is the story of evolution of living organisms on Earth. And when you go pursuing this question, we can say that all organisms which lived here in the past, which are now living and which will be coming in future to this world, are all connected together, because we are all formed from, or we are all generated from our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, which lived once upon a time in this world. Now we are all living. Now we will be giving birth to the new generations. So all of them are connected together. Why? Because we share the common genetic material, that is the DNA. We are all inheriting our genetic material. We got that genetic material from our parents, grandparents, great parents. So it is from these great grandparents that we are inheriting, sometimes more, sometimes small amount of that DNA, genetic material. And through that inheritance, all living things, present and past, are connected together, both vertically and horizontally. Meaning, all living things which are all present in the same generation, they are all belonging to the same generation, same time, they are all connected together. Which lived in the past, they are connected vertically. So, vertically and horizontally, all living things are connected together. We are all connected to our ancestors. Similarly, these ancestors were getting their genetic material from their ancestors. So, through generation after generation, genetic materials are all shared. And because of that sharing of genetic material, we have to say that all living things are connected together. They are all related to each other. So that is the first part of our chapter. Okay, now we are all going to the second part. As we have studied, there are a large number of living things in this world. The total number and variety of living in this world is called biodiversity. It is estimated that there is a range of between 1.7 to 1.8 million species of living things in this world. We have not studied, discovered all the living things. A lot is to be still discovered. So, we have already discovered and studied 1.7 to 1.8 million. A lot, again, we have to study and discover. So, what is the total number of living things in this world? It is always higher than 1.7 to 1.8. We cannot say what exactly, because we don't know what exactly is there to be, that is remaining to be discovered, studied. So, simply we can say that the total number of living things in the world will be higher than that of 1.7 to 1.8 million. Is it possible to study all these living things? No. But as biologists, we want to study about all living things also. So, what is the easiest way? We have to group them based upon their similarities and differences. We are all grouping them. That grouping is called classification. Grouping is called classification. And in classification, we are all having a number of problems based upon what we will be grouping. So the best thing is to group them based upon similarities. And those which are all similar should be grouped under same group. And in science, a group is called taxon. And grouping them into convenient groups or classes is called taxonomy. Taxonomy is the science of grouping organisms in a scientific way. That is what is called taxonomy. And there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms also. Then only we know that which is the organism to which the name is given. The process of giving name is called nomenclature. The art and science of giving name is called nomenclature. If we want to give the correct name, then we should know to which organism, an organism which is having so and so characters. What are the characters this organism is having, to which this name is given. For that, we have to study the characters, and the study of characters is called characterization. It is description of that organism. Then only we can identify that organism. So that is the basic thing, identification. And to make classification easy, they have made certain rules and regulations and procedures. Okay. We are all now having a scientific name given to all living things. That scientific name is the only name, biological name, by which the organism is known all over the world. This way of scientific naming was introduced by Carl Linnaeus, the father of modern taxonomy. In his book, Systema Naturae, okay, he is describing the procedures for giving nomenclature. Actually, he had published one more book, the Species Plantarum, in 1753. In 1753, and the binomial nomenclature, that is what we are now going to study, was accepted to be effective from 1st of May 1753. Okay. Accordingly, all living things are known by the same name, called their biological name or scientific name, which is having two words. The first word is the generic name. So each name is having two components. One is the generic name, and generic name is the name of the genus to which it is belonging, and the second word is the specific epithet. Okay. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. Carl Linnaeus is the father of this scientific nomenclature program. This system was given by Carolus Linnaeus. That is being practiced by biologists all over the world since this time. This naming system has two words. As I told you, one is the generic name and second one is the the specific epithet. These words are taken from Latin. If there is no correct Latin word, then these words are Latinized. Okay. So either Latin or Latinized. He selected Latin because Latin is a dead language. So that is the reason why Linnaeus took Latin. Biological names are generally in Latin, and when it is printed, it should be in italics. Italics means in a slightly just like this, bending to the right. Okay. And if they are handwritten, they will be underlined by two separate underlines. So if they are printed, they will be printed in italics, and if they are handwritten, they are underlined by two separate lines. So the first word is the generic name, is represented the name of the genus. Second is the name which is indicating its specific epithet. The first word denoting the genus always start with a capital letter, while the specific epithet start with a small letter. Then sometimes the author's name is also indicated. The third word, if author's word or name is added, then that author's name need not be in Latin. It can be in Greek, and it need not be in full. It can be abbreviated, very short. For example, Mangifera indica, Lin. Lin is the short form of Linnaeus. Linnaeus is the author who coined that biological name to this plant. That's the meaning. Okay. Now, name of the author appears after the specific epithet. Okay. It indicates that species was first described by Linnaeus. So, as I told you earlier, we have to classify organisms. Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based upon some easily observable characters. These characters are easily observable characters, and these classes or groups belong to different levels. And Linnaeus has made a system of classification which is having 7 broad categories. These 7 broad categories are must for any organism in its classification. That's why they are called obligate categories. Obligate categories. These 7 obligate categories include 7 taxa starting from species to the kingdom. In both plant and animal classification, species is the smallest. So, what's the species? Species in biology means group of identical organisms which are potentially interbreeding and reproductively isolated from other groups. That is, all members belong to the same species will be exactly similar, identical, and among them they will be sexually reproducing. That is what is called potentially interbreeding. But they cannot interbreed so with other species. Okay, so organs of one species, A species, can mate and have fertile children, fertile young ones with other A members, but cannot do so with B group, another group. That is what is called reproductively isolated. So I will repeat once again. Species is a group of identical organisms which are all potentially interbreeding but reproductively isolated from other groups. Actually, this definition was given by Ernst Mayr, who is called the Darwin of the 20th century. The great man was given the triple crown of biology, the great three awards in biology. Okay, so that is the meaning of species. And species is the smallest unit of classification. Each unit is called a taxon. There are 7 taxa, plural. And these taxa are arranged one above the other one. Species is at the lowest level, okay, in which all members are identical. There are 1.7 to 1.8 million species which we have studied, recorded. And among them, those which are all sharing a number of features, identical features, are put under yet another larger group called genus. So a genus consists of similar species which are all related to each other. A genus is at a higher level, a higher rank, because it contains so many species under it. Okay. So Mangifera is a species. Panthera is, Mangifera is a genus. Panthera is a genus. We are having a number of genera. Okay. These genera, which are all related to each other, are again grouped into a still higher rank called family. Species is the lowest one. Okay. It is that species name which is taken as the second word. The first word is the name of the genus. So a genus is at a higher level because it is made up of a number of related species. For example, potato and brinjal, they are all belonging to the genus Solanum. Similarly, Panthera include Panthera leo, Panthera pardus, Panthera tigris, etc. So, we are all having a large number of genera. Genus is singular, genera plural. And those genera which are all related to each other are put under a still higher group called family. So, families are a group of related genera. Now, in species, all members were identical. But in a genus which contains different species, all of them are not same. They will be differing in some features. So, a genera will be having less number of characters in common than members of a species. When we go to family, in a family, there will be different genera. So, for example, lion, tiger, leopard, they are all coming under Panthera. Similarly, cats are also coming under the Felis. Felis, Panthera, etc. are coming under the same family, Felidae. So, families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species among plant species. We are having animals which are all showing similarities in their features. Such similarities are taken into consideration for putting under the same family. Okay, so we are having family which is made up of a number of related genera. So species, genus, family, these three are the lowest levels of classification, but others are a bit higher, like order. Order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based upon they are all based upon aggregate of characters. They are all identified based upon a set of, aggregate means collection, a collection of characters. Only those organisms which are having this collection of group of characters will be put under the same order. What is an order? Order is a higher category above family. So an order contains a number of similar families which are all showing some features. For example, Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae, these are all plant families. They are all put under the same order, polymoniales. Why they are all put under? Because they show similarity in their flower characteristics, floral characteristics. That is why they are all put under a higher group, namely order. Similarly, order Carnivora is containing Felidae, in which cats are coming, Canidae, dogs are coming. They are all coming under the same order Carnivora. We belong to, Homo sapiens belong to, along with other similar organisms, to the order Primata. Primata. Okay. Now, still higher to that, you are having the group or taxon class. So, class is a group of related orders in which, say for example, order Primata comprising monkeys, gorilla and gibbon are also put under the same class Mammalia, which is including Carnivora, that include tiger, cat and dog. We are having so many other orders also, like Cetaceae, Proboscidae. Okay, we are having a large number of orders which are all grouped under a higher taxon called class. And classes comprising similar organisms are put to or put under the next higher category called phylum. All these based upon the common features, like we are having a number of common features. It is based upon these common features that we are all putting them together. Okay. We are all coming under the phylum Chordata because we are having notochord. So either during the developing stages or throughout the life, we will be having notochord. Only those organisms which are having a notochord will be coming under chordata. Okay. And all animals belong to various phyla are coming on the highest category called kingdom, and we are having two kingdoms. Linnaeus has made two kingdoms. One animal kingdom, which include all animals. The other one is plant kingdom, plantae, which include all plants of different varieties. Okay, so these are the two groups of the plant and animal world. Thus, we can see that there are seven broad or obligate categories: species, genus, family, order, class, and division. As we go up, the size goes on increasing. A genus is made up of a large number of species. Several genera are coming under a family. Several families coming under an order. Several orders are coming under a class. Several classes are coming under a phylum. And all phylum are coming under the kingdom. So the size goes on increasing. That's why we say that our hierarchy is an ascending one. Ascending hierarchy. Another important point. In species, all members are identical, but in genera, there are not so identical. They will be differing. Again, in family, there will be so many genera which are differing from each other. So as we go up, similarities goes on decreasing, differences goes on increasing. So as we go up, the size of each taxon become larger and larger. That's why it is called ascending hierarchy. And second one, the common characters goes on decreasing. So it is easy to classify at the low level. Lowest level it is easy because all characters are same. But it is very difficult to classify at higher levels. Okay. Now, after the time of Linnaeus, that is post-Linnaeus taxonomists have developed additional categories which are called subcategories, like superorder, suborder, by prefixing super and sub, superclass, subclass, superfamily, subfamily. So they have developed such subcategories to facilitate more scientific and accurate scientific placement of various taxa. Because our studies are improving, we are gaining more and more information, and to accommodate all organisms based upon all these informations, and also to include all newly discovered organisms, we are now using subcategories also that facilitate more sound, correct, and scientific placement of different taxa. Is that clear? Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxon share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa. That is the problem of classification becoming more and more complex in higher taxa, in higher categories. Okay, so this is the genus, family, order, class, and the phylum or division. Remember, the first two belong to Animalia, kingdom Animalia. The last two belong to the kingdom Plantae. Plantae is divided into two phylum only, gymnosperms and angiosperms. And here both of them are belonging to angiosperms, and these angiosperms are divided into monocot and dicot classes. Okay. So that's in brief about classification. Then, in making our classifications, taxonomists have developed so many techniques and procedures that make our study easier. All such things that will be helping in studying taxonomy is called taxonomic aid. It is called taxonomic AIDS. So biologists have developed a number of techniques to store and preserve information as well as the specimens. They will be helping in learning taxonomy. For example, herbarium. Herbarium is a quick reference system. It contains plant parts which are all dried and preserved. Dried and preserved, only plant materials, which will be containing information on that plant, its common name, its local name, its scientific name, area of collection, date of collection, who collected it, who is the collector, etc. All such information will be there. Okay. And these specimens are dried and pressed and preserved on sheets. These sheets are called herbarium sheets and they are all arranged according to the universally accepted system of classification. That will be containing a label providing information about date, place of collection, English, local and botanical names, family and collector's name. Herbarium is acting as a quick referral system. Very easily you can go and compare your specimen with those which are all preserved there. That's why it is called quick referral system. Second one is botanical garden. Botanical garden is a place where plants from different parts of the world are all preserved in living condition. So they are all protected, grown in human environmental management. So botanical gardens are collection of living plants for reference. Gardens are grown for identification purposes. And each plant will be having a small note indicating its botanical name, its family, etc. The largest and the famous botanical garden is the Kew Garden in England. Indian Botanical Garden in Howrah and National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow are the most well-known botanical gardens in India. Remember, in botanical gardens, you are all having only plant materials, live. They are all live. And ex situ, that is plants taken from different parts of the world are brought there. So it is a typical example for live ex situ conserved taxonomic aid, whereas herbarium is a preserved which contain dead plant parts, only dead plant parts. Here live plant parts. Whereas museum, again museum is having both plant and animal specimen which are all kept in educational institutions, in research institutions, etc. They contain preserved plant and animal specimens for study and references. Here specimens are kept either in a liquid, in a jar containing liquid. So we call it as wet specimen. We call it as wet specimen. Or it may be dry specimens. So they have preserved plant and animal. Both plant and animal materials are thus preserved, either as wet or as dry specimens. Insects are also preserved in insect boxes. After collecting insects, they are all killed and they are all dried and then pinned in boxes called entomological boxes. Large animals like birds and animals are stuffed. And again, they are all preserved. So, museum is also a collection of preserved dead plant and animals. Dead plant and animals. Clear? Zoological parks, simply called as zoo, contains living animals which are all kept under human care and protection. So it is conserved. Only animals, not in their natural habitat. They are all taken from their original home, brought to this zoo, and are given conditions which are all almost similar to that of their original condition. So it is an example for ex situ, just like botanical gardens, zoological gardens are also ex situ, meaning out of their original home. They are brought and kept in artificial environment condition so that you can go there, watch their feeding habits and behavior. Okay, so in all these, we are all actually seeing the specimen either dead or live. But in the coming, which is called keys, we are using books, photographs, pictures, drawings, etc. So, key is a taxonomic aid used for identification of plants and animals. We can identify an animal or a plant based upon these keys. Keys are based upon similarities and dissimilarities. Keys are containing information in an analytical way. In an analytical way, informations are arranged. All informations are arranged in the form of a statement or lead. It is called a lead, and each statement will be having two alternating forms. That two alternative forms are called couplet. One will be the correct one, the other one will be not your choice. So, which is the correct one you take, you select and follow the instruction therein. Thus, this type of key will be highly enabling a beginner, a student to arrive at the taxon to which that organism is belonging. You can identify the taxon of a plant or an animal based upon key. But only one important point, you cannot identify all the 7 taxa. We have to use separate keys for identifying, for determining the each taxa. Say for example, you want to know the family of a plant, you have to take family key. You want to identify the order of an organism, you have to take the key for orders. Keys are only for a particular taxon. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomic category, such as family, genus, species, for identification purposes. As I told you, keys are analytical books. Books in which informations are given in an analyzing. We are all going through the characters as if we are analyzing the character. And based upon that, we are all identifying the taxon to which that organism is belonging. That is what is called analytical. Okay. Now, coming to the last one. We also have descriptive books, which is not in an analytical one, but in a descriptive form. For example, flora. Flora contains actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a given area. What are the different types of plants that are available in a given area? That book is called Flora. Then manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names of species found in an area. Then monographs contain information on any one taxon. Catalogs are checklists which enable us to identify whether a given organism is present in an area or not. It is only a checklist. So, flora, again fauna. What is fauna? A book that contains information whether regarding animals in an area. Flora is for plants, fauna is for animals. Okay, manuals for identification of names of species, monograph that contains information on any one taxon, meaning either of family or either of one order or either of one genus. Okay, just like along with it will be giving informations only on one taxon. That is what's called monographs. And catalog are some other books which are all helping us in studying taxonomy. So these are all the taxonomic aids that help us in learning taxonomy. Remember, without taxonomy, living study is not complete. We cannot study living things or biology. So with that, I wind up my discussion and we will meet with another chapter next day. So until then, take care. Thank you all. Thank you very much.